Okay, so I'm going to be checking with the OBD2 port the live data, basically getting two codes, lean codes, P0171 and P0174, and I want to be able to do some level of diagnosis to check the mass airflow sensor to see if that's working correctly, and also check the fuel trims, short-term and long-term fuel trims. I don't know exactly what to make of that data, but at least if I have the data, I can begin to look into it. So I have here my iCar soft scanner. It's for Mercedes-Benz. It's version 3.0. It does OBD2 scanning as well as more in-depth scanning for my car. It's a 2004 E500 Mercedes W211 chassis, M113 engine, so it's a V8 engine. So I've basically going to connect the scanner first, and what I'm going to do is see if I can capture freeze frame data from the error codes as well. First read the error codes using OBD2, and then I'm going to capture the freeze frame data from it, which should be what is captured in the idle. So I've connected it up. It gets its power from the OBD2 port, which is below the car over there. What is this? Well, I can't show it to you here, but it's below there. And let's try first reading OBD2 codes. I don't know if I need to start the ignition, at least powered on the car. Linking to vehicle, trying to find the exact protocol. May not be able to find it. It may require actually turning on the ignition. Okay, link error because I need to start the car, so I go back and there's no lights on the dash, so I guess I should just turn it to the on position, and now I have some dash lights. Radio was on anyway, but now this should hopefully have some communication. Still have a link error, not sure why. Let's go back, and maybe there's one more position. Yeah, one more position in which I needed to turn this. So I think there's a completely off, and then there's a power, and then there is when you're just about to crank the engine to start. So now it should work. Let's see, let's try this again. Yeah, it's talking to the vehicle now, and it did find two of the codes. Protocol type is KWP. I'm not sure what that is, but okay. So now the next thing is we have to read the codes. So we read the codes, and there's also all sorts of other things like, okay, so let's try reading the codes first. So there are the codes P0171 and P0174. Now we look at freeze frame data. So this will tell us probably more information about the condition of the vehicle. There's also O2 monitors test. Okay, so that should also help. And there's also a onboard monitor. I'm not sure what that is, and an evap system. Okay, so first let's try. First you just get the vehicle information. It probably gets the VIN number and all of that. Yeah, there we go. That's the VIN number. Not sure what all those other things are. Let's go back. We've already read the codes, so now we have to look at freeze frame data. This is the condition of the car when this when the actual codes was measured. So P0171, the data that was frozen was closed loop. Closed loop is, I guess, when the car has not yet started, when it's not ignited the engine. As opposed to open loop is when the car is working. This is related to the oxygen sensors. The loop is, I think, the loop back from the oxygen sensors. So closed loop is, well, I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, the loop has something to do with the oxygen sensor, I think. So anyway, calculated load value 7.5%. Engine coolant temperature 82, which is considered normal. Not sure what load value is. Okay, this is, I think, what we are interested in. Short-term trim B1 bank 1 is 25%. Long-term is 18%. So somewhere in some videos I saw that long-term is what gets measured over a long period of time, and it catches up to what short-term shows. But short-term itself is quite high. 25% is quite high. I'm not sure how this short-term and long-term fuel trims are related to the actual fuel trim, but the ratio is supposed to be 14.7 parts of air to fuel. I think that's the ratio, but anyway, I'll figure out what these mean. Intake manifold absolute pressure, that's the MAP. I changed the MAP sensor, so that should be working and should be new almost. And engine speed is 550 rpm. I mean, actually it should be 0. I'm not really started the, yeah, vehicle speed is 0. Okay, so anyway, we, for whatever that data is worth, not sure. Fuel yeah, none of these. This is the live data. Not sure what this is. W, anyway. F1 is the wave. Okay, anyway, so that was that. Whoa, what is this? It's some kind of a bug. F1 is going back. Okay, let's see, going back. Okay, so read codes we already did. Let's look at O2 monitor test. Okay, let's try this. I've never tried this before. Okay, so there are two O2 sensors per bank. Let's try sensor 1, bank 1. Okay, it's not supported, so we don't have a O2 sensor test, I suppose. Yeah, none of these O2 sensor tests are supported. Onboard monitor, what that is, let's check that. Not sure what this is. Onboard monitor test. Well, I think you can probably assign different. Well, actually, I don't know. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 9. What happened to 6, 7, and 8? I'm not sure. Anyway, what's this evap test? Oh, 8. That's mode 8. Okay, so it's not supported. Okay, so let's go back. And let's check diagnostics. This is where I want to check the map sensor, but I don't know if there's a function to check the map sensor. Let's see what services. Oil reset. Yeah, this is for all the suspension and all of that other stuff. Engine idle, fuel pump, air filter. This is for probably resetting everything. What's etc. Okay, I don't want to mess with any of this. Voltage, this checks probably the battery voltage. Yeah, so 12 volts is good. Go back. Then we look at, let's go to, let's see if there's something specifically for the O2 sensor, checking the O2 sensor. Suppose not. Let's go back. Let's go to diagnostics. I have scanned the VIN before and I think I've saved it, so let's see if I've saved. Vehicle select. No, it's not saved. So I can go back and just scan the VIN and then just get the vehicle from the scanned VIN. Oh, somehow that didn't work. You just read the VIN and then get all the information from the VIN. And then we press F1 for OK. What? That's crazy. Let's do a VIN scan again. F1. Okay. Let's select the medical information manually. Wow, this is weird. It's never done this before. Oh, because it was in the Sprinter menu. Okay, I should be in the Mercedes-Benz menu. Okay. Yeah, now it should work. Let's see, vehicle select. This is where you manually select, but we don't want to manually select. This is an E-Class, but let's just read the VIN. It's the E211 chassis. Let's go back and let's just identify it by the VIN. Read the VIN, and now it should work. And now if you press F1, it should work. Yep, there we go. And this is a 2004, so it's up to 5 of 2004. VIN, there we go. W11 chassis model. It's a 211.070 chassis, gasoline. Press OK. Okay, this quick test auto scan service. Let's try. Auto scan will tell us what systems are there on it. So let's try this first. Set ignition to on. Okay, I think it is set to on. I keep forgetting what it means by on. Okay, I think let's just start the car, because I think to do the check it needs the car to have been started, and then just press OK for F1. Now it's doing all the scanning for all the systems that are on the car. And I see a bunch of lights going on the dash. The idle I can feel is a little rough on this car. So that's a sign of intake manifold, I mean air intake issue, or it could be also the mass airflow sensor. But this is a rough idle, I think. I also have this other issue with the brake warning on my dash, but that doesn't result in any OBD2 error. 28 so far, 28 systems, 29. I believe there are 29 systems on this. Oh, 28 systems. Okay. Now I can choose any one of these. So let's say ECM, sensortronic brake, suspension, supplemental SRS, central gateway, control panel, system diagnostic. I think if I select any of them, it'll just tell me what the version of that is. So we go back actually. And let's do a quick test. Ignition is on, press F1. So the sensortronic brake gave me an error, which could be related to this problem that I'm seeing. I guess the next thing to check is the live data. Yeah, the door controls have a problem because my right side mirror is actually, so ECM has an error, SBC has an error, overhead control panel, these are both the front, the front left and right have errors. Not sure, I'll look into this later. Let's first look at actually I'm trying to find the part about the lean codes. So for the SBC, sensortronic brake control, I have one fault, and that could be related to this error that I see on the dash. It'll just come up in a minute. Yeah, this one, brake, service brake, visit workshop. But anyway, what we are trying to do is actually look at the live data related to the air intake, which would be under, I'm not sure what that would be under. Let's see, ECM, engine control. Yeah, it would be under ECM because the ECM is what, let's read the fault codes on the ECM. Yeah, so basically it says bank of cylinders are at maximum value at idle speed, enrichment over permissible limit. This is actually related to P0171, and the code is P20P, the second Google, P2017-001. The other one is P2086-001. These are related to the Mercedes specific diagnostics. So okay, let's go back. Let's view the data. This is quite a few tests. Okay, check engine at cold start and in warming up phase, which is where we are, I think. Oil temperature, oil, we're not related to oil. Safety, fuel shut off, temperature of coolant. This is the intake air temperature sensor. Post start enrichment is, I think, probably when it needs to add fuel. But let's try air intake temperature sensor. Let's try, what is this idle speed detection? And let's try done to see. This is showing the live data. And 48 degrees centigrade and idle speed detection is on. Let's view it in a waveform. There's no waveform. Yeah, there it is, but it's stable, essentially not changing. This is for the temperature only. Go back. Let's go back. I'm gonna view the live data. So this is the ECM, but let's look at the live data. Yes, we do. We want to see the MAF sensor value. Which we should be able to look at even without, so we go to OBD2. It's found 2 frames, so let's see the codes again. Look at the live data. Let's look at custom. We want some custom data to be plotted. So let's look at I'm not sure what fuel system status is. Let's look at short-term fuel, long-term fuel for each of the banks. Let's look at the MAP pressure, intake manifold, and then look at engine speed. This case, vehicle speed doesn't matter, we're not going to drive. Ignition timing, advance, air intake, temperature, airflow rate from mass air. This is important. Yeah, this is important. Oxygen sensor output voltage, short-term fuel. This is from the oxygen sensor, O2 sensor. Not sure what commanded air status is, but let's see what that is. All this, let's look at all this. And then let's hit 1 for done. And if you want this, actually this is the live data, but if you want it in a waveform, we could also see it in a waveform. So right now it looks like the fuel trims, this is when I'm not revving the engine, so this is at idle and CL is closed loop. Short-term fuel is 4.7. This should be, I'm not sure what this should be. Long-term fuel is 14, so not terribly high. I think they say you have to add up short-term and long-term. Oh, now it is high. 25, I think. And this is for bank 1. Bank 2 is 10 or 12 plus. again 25. Okay, so intake manifold, absolute pressure is 32 kPa. Commanded secondary A status, I'm not sure what that is. So let's see if I rev the engine. This is to check if the mass airflow sensor, if I rev the engine, it should, the air flowing through the mass airflow sensor should increase, which is this one here, airflow rate from mass airflow sensor, which is what I wanted to check. So I think 2.5 is okay at idle, but when I rev the engine, the 650 rpm should go up, as should the airflow from the mass airflow sensor. I think that would tell me if the engine, if the mass airflow sensor is working or not. So let's try that. So RPM goes up to 4,200 or so. Mass airflow sensors at 32, which definitely has gone up from the 2.5 or whatever it was. If I reduce the RPM, so the mass airflow sensor seems to be working. Now I want to see what the fuel trims look like when I rev the engine. Let's look at the MAP sensor. MAP sensor should also go up, yeah. So what's at the mass airflow should be almost as what is at the MAP. So it looks like it is unmetered air that is getting in, because it's like it's all past the mass airflow sensor, where mass airflow sensor seems to be okay. So let's look at the fuel trims as I rev the engine. So right now fuel trim is short-term fuel trim, which is the real-time fuel trim, is at 9%, which I believe is too high. But when I rev the engine, it does go low and it goes negative. It goes from OL drive to closed loop. That's the other thing. When I decelerate, it goes to OL drive, open loop drive. Okay, so hopefully that gives us some data. Let's look at this on our waveform, which might be too many variables at a time. Not sure what variable this is. Oh, this is short-term fuel trim. Okay, let's look at first the MAP sensor, or mass airflow sensor, as I rev the engine. Let's look at the airflow rate from the mass airflow sensor. Right now it's at 2.5. Let's look at this on a waveform. 2.5. It's fluctuating around 2.3, 2.41. Now let's start to rev the engine, and you see how it goes up, and then I decelerate again, it should go down. Yeah, so the mass airflow sensor is working just fine. Let's go back. Let's look at oxygen sensor. I'm not sure what these are. Oh, oxygen sensor output voltage. Wonder if this is the problem. Okay, this is what's coming out from the emissions. The oxygen sensors are part of the catalytic converter, I think, the emission system, not the intake system. So I don't know how this is related. I do notice a difference in the oxygen sensor voltages, and there's short-term fuel trim for the Oxygen sensor voltages. I'm not sure how this is related. Short-term fuel trim for B2, that is bank 2 sensor 2, is really high, 92%. This looking at the difference. See how here I'm looking at a big difference. So output voltage is less than half a volt in all cases, but short-term fuel trim bank 1 sensor 1 is 0.8%. Bank 1 sensor 2 is 100%. I wonder if one is before one is before the cat, one might be after the cat. So bank 1 sensor 1 is very low, bank 1 sensor 2. So it looks like sensor 1 is very low, sensor 2 is very high. So let's see if that's also the case here. Sensor 1 is very low. Sensor 2 is really high. Okay, so that seems okay. What happens if we rev the engine? Let's see how that affects these oxygen sensors. It affects the short-term fuel trim. Short-term fuel trim should be at 0. I read somewhere online. I'm not sure what these really mean. But basically, how is all these fuel trims related to that magic 14.7 ratio? I'll have to check all that online. But anyway, it seems to me like the MAP airflow or the mass airflow sensor is working, because otherwise it wouldn't have produced it wouldn't have detected increased air intake when I rev the engine. So looks like I've drawn the right conclusion about the mass airflow sensors working. Now the question is, where is the air intake leak? It's obviously somewhere after the mass airflow sensors. That's one question that needs to be answered, and I'll try to figure out if there's a way to. I think there's a smoke test as one way to check, and I don't know if the oxygen sensors can be used to test that, but hopefully this data might be helpful, and I have to still figure out a way on how to interpret this data. So anyway, that's that. It's getting dark in the evening, so I might as well call it a day, and try to continue diagnosing this tomorrow and go back. While I'm at it, let's see what are the options for service. Okay, this is just resetting all the things. It probably shows a procedure, I don't know. I've never tried this. Suspension. Let's see, suspension or diagnostic for Mercedes-Benz. These are all related to testing of these different service procedures, I think.